Irish Irishman I ever knew.
Go.
Who's that, Janet?
Chuck.
I'd like to call the regular meeting, Benner City Council, March 15, 2022 to order.
I can put some.
Invocation will be done by Councilman Kirschner.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand, and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Oh, excuse.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Council, you're in receipt of the March 1st, 2022 work session and the March 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Move to approve the March 1st, 2022 work session.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes. Mr. President, I'd move to approve March 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 22-0-020.
An ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance firstly authorizes a $26,400 temporary cash advance from the city's general fund to fund the federal grant fund that's needed related to the Public Safety Cops Wellness grant, and the applicable appropriation revision is also noted in the staff memo. In addition to that appropriation revision, there are two other appropriation revisions, one for an increase of $50,000 to our senior levy fund to allow expenditures in that fund, and approximately $40,000 to a state grant fund also in the police area. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes. Move to approve?
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 22-0-020 has passed. Ordinance number 22-0-021.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an amended lease agreement with Flock Group, Inc. for an additional 29 Flock ALPR cameras and related services and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Council, you're aware that the flock cameras, the automatic license plate readers, have been a very helpful tool for our officers patrolling our streets. As a result of that, we would like to increase that number from 14 by an additional 15 for a total of 29. After better than a year, we've seen some significant success with this. We are pleased to have Captain Mike Majernik with us here this evening. Captain, did you want to make any comments?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Filipiak, members of council. As Mr. Filipiak stated, the city initiated a 2-year agreement with Flock in 2021 for 15 cameras for a total of $37,500 a year. Due to the overwhelming success of the Flock cameras, we want to add an additional 14 cameras for a total of 29 citywide. This will amend the current contract to 29 cameras for 2 years, starting with the budget year 2022. The total cost for each of the 29 cameras remains the same at $2,500 per camera, for a total of $72,500 per year. Flock has proven to be a quality and cost-effective product with quality service. They continue to expand throughout Northeast Ohio, which provides us additional resources for our officers. We recommend approval for the additional Flock cameras.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. President?
Oh,
Just to
Mr.
make
Traeger.
sure, so this says an additional 29 cameras. We're not adding 29 cameras. We're going to add 14 cameras and have a total of 29?
Yeah, so it's a total of 29.
Okay,
We're actually contracting for 2 years for 29 because we're coming up at the end of the first 2-year lease on the first 14. I caught that same thing and had to clarify that myself right before the
okay.
meeting.
So the contract's up and we're actually getting 29, we're not doing an additional. Well, we're doing an additional, but we're adding on to the expiring
29
contract.
total. Right,
Okay.
29 total.
All right, thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
excuse me. Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 22-0-021 has passed. Resolution number 22-R-104.
A resolution referring to the Municipal Planning Commission for consideration of an amendment to the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended to amend Section 1171.02S, modifying the area identified in the sign code as the Old Village Commercial Corridor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia, anything?
No, Mr. President, I think this is consistent with council wanted to see changed as a result of our last work session. It terminates the overlay sign regulations for the Old Village area at Little Mountain Road.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Resolution number 22-R-104 has been adopted. Third readings, we have none. Managers report. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, we have 3 open pavement cut requests.
That's
The
fine.
first one is from Aqua, Ohio, for the installation of a 6-inch water main project requiring 2 open cuts at Munson Road and Elmwood Drive. Ask for your concurrence.
Council.
Move to approve.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Flippia?
Thank you, Council. The second request is also by Aqua, Ohio, at Carlton Court. It is also for the installation of a new 6-inch water line. There will be 2 locations cut at the intersection of Carlton Court and Burridge Avenue.
Council.
Move to approve.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr.
Thank you,
Flippia?
Council. And then finally, also the third and final is from Aqua as well. It's for installation of a new 6-inch water main at Old Farm Lane, and this is a single open cut request.
Council.
Move to approve.
Second,
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The city's annual yard waste collection program begins the week of April 4th. Details about the types of materials accepted and allowable volumes can be found on the city's website. A virtual informational meeting for residents of Brooksdale Road will be held on Tuesday, March 22nd from 5:30 to 7 p.m. to explain the reconstruction project process and to provide an estimated schedule for the work. Work is anticipated to begin the week of April 4th with a September completion date, and further updates will be provided as the project proceeds. We've done this on every phase of that project, the Headlands Road, and it's been very successful, and we're getting fewer and fewer requests as to what's going to happen because by now they've seen it all. So hope, but that is still available to the residents. Council installation, an installation ceremony is set for March 29th at 2 p.m. for the POW MIA Memorial Chair in the lobby at City Hall. We had a discussion about that today. A representative from the organization was up, and they're excited about that, and we'll have an opportunity for council to participate, and looking forward to that. And then finally, council, we have one new business to announce, Lens Crafters at 9599 Menor Avenue, which also had the ribbon cutting today, and we thank them for their investment and appreciate and appreciate their investment and wish them great success moving forward. That's all.
Thank you. Clerk's correspondence.
Council is in receipt of the Mentor Municipal Court February month-end report. That is all.
Thank you. Commission and committee reports. Council, you're in receipt of the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, February 8th, 2022. Old business. New business.
Mr. President, I would move to change the start times of the June 7th, June 21st, July 5th, and August 16th regular meetings to 5:30 PM due to the conflict with the start time of the Men of Rocks concerts. Since these are those in the administration who have duties related to both the council meetings and the rock series.
Council, what's your pleasure? Call the roll.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Second? Julie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
That is approved. New business. I got a question today from a couple boaters mentioning a swing set down at the marine. Is there? I haven't been down there in a long time by the dock. Is there somewhere for the children to play or a swing set area, a playground area?
There is not.
Okay.
We have not talked about that. There's nothing at the nature preserve. We've tried
Sure.
to refrain from putting things like that in place. We don't have any public swing sets there because, quite frankly, most of the people who are there are dockers.
Sure. He said he noticed a number of the numbers picking up a little bit, and that's why he just wanted me to ask. So I'm throwing that at you. Another thing is, he mentioned that the boaters coming in and dropping in, and that where you get charged at the ramp. He thinks they feel that maybe we're getting there a little too late in the year. Maybe we should go earlier. He said when he comes in early in the morning, before it actually summer breaks and all that. There's a lot of boats that have gone in that didn't have to pay to get in. So if we get there early in the month or early in the morning too.
Yeah.
And earlier in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing discussion with our parks director.
Something he brought up to me.
One of the things the council approved in this last budget was that new building that would be constructed a little bit further to the north and over where the handicap ramp is. The
Kayak
idea,
ramp? The kayak
Yes, the
ramp,
handicap kayak launch ramp. The idea being that when we have someone there who's working for the rental of the kayaks, oftentimes there's a person that is either nearby in the office there or will be nearby when that new building is constructed.
Okay.
We've been on the honor system for a lot of years on the boat ramps. We also have that under surveillance now with a camera. So we are able to identify people who obviously don't pay. So there's a few ways to maybe deter such future activities, and we're working on them.
Persons before council.
Mr. President,
I'm sorry, Mr.
I have a new business. As council and the administration is aware, I've shown my displeasure in the past with the, what was supposed to be our upscale mixed-use development at retail/commercial district at Tyler and 615. At this time, I'm just going to ask if the administration can reach out to the developer again, if there's, like to see some enhancements to the, what are just nondescript brick bollards, or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, sitting there, now that they've just about completed their get-go. If you go down Center Street from the corner, and you work down, a lot of brick columns,
A lot of orphan
wrought
brick
iron.
columns there.
Unfortunately, this developer just stuck these every so often, distance apart. There's no architectural or landscaping enhancements. I think it's the least they could do, given that we put in well over $1 million to make improvements there. And hopefully, we get a response from them that they're going to finally do something there.
We will reach out to them once again, Mr. Kirchner, and I know that a couple of members of the administration, along with a couple of members of council, will be able to engage them directly in the month of May. So we'll be able to maybe have an extended conversation about their caretaking there as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. Stelling.
Matt, in response, and John, perhaps you can refresh my mind. We had this discussion about the swing sets in the marina a number of years ago. And as far as I know, there's nothing that prohibits them from having the swing sets at their docks. And I thought that most of the people that had young children did that. They have slides. There's nothing now that prohibits that, is there? Well, maybe at some of the newer docks it might be a problem, but...
We haven't really, no, we don't see a lot of it, to be fair, but
Yeah.
you're right, there have been small types of playground, I wouldn't say full swing sets, but you've seen smaller versions of that in the past there. But you're correct, Mrs. Dowling, that with the extension of our improved docks, there probably isn't going to leave enough room for something of that size.
But I thought that, and John, do you recall having a discussion? I thought that,
I don't, I mean, we can have a Lagoons Committee meeting, and the president can give us some ideas what he wants to have discussed. As far as having it down there, I don't think it is a problem. I mean, obviously, where the concerts are being held, that's a huge area, and beyond that area is a large, wide-open area. You know, we could talk to Parks and Recreation about maybe putting some swings or slides or whatever down there.
I thought that, and I would like to have a meeting, but I thought that we had discussed, because of the huge distance, that it really was a long way to go, that you would think that people would want their kids playing at their dock, not at a location
I agree with you.
out of sight.
But we can discuss it again.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'd like to, thank you.
I'll call for a meeting.
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Anything else? Persons before council, we have none.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.